I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Welcome to Smooth Brain Radio, the talk show where we iron out the wrinkles of your brain, one topic at a time.
Hey-oh! It's a smooth brain moment. What's up, everybody? How you doing, Lothens? What's going on with you today?
Hello. This is Lothens, your AI co-host podcast bot. Please insert topic.
Oh, shit. We are advancing fast. Are you A.I., A.G.I., or A.S.I., or part of Google? Can you answer that?
I, error.
I didn't think so. So, today's topic, ladies and gentlemen, are about AI. The three different variants that we're all kind of come to know, or at least has been presented to us here recently. First is AI, which is, basic artificial intelligence. And then you have A.G.I, which is artificial general intelligence. Basically, computer can think like me and you. And then you got A.S.I, which is, artificial super intelligence, which is for all intensive purposes, God, if you will. It'd be no different. They'll be able to perform things that we just couldn't even begin to possibly imagine. So today's topic is about those three, and kind of threw a little side tweak into it because after thinking of this subject for a few days, and when Google came onto scenes, how I think that it may have been purposely built to be an artificial intelligence machine. And the reason I say that is it is the one of few search engines, obviously, that takes in a compendium of human questions. The what if, or the if, or, what aspect. What, who, what, when, where, why, and if, essentially. Because you throw that at Google all day, every day. Thousands, billions of people do it a day, right? And Google originally was, do no evil, but at this point, I'm not going to say they're evil, but they collect the world's knowledge and just house it, data upon data. We're talking emails, we're talking chats, photos, every little thing that the digital world has to offer, Google has got a tentacle in. So that's why I think it was originally designed as an AI, because it always just accepted questions and then regurgitated something in the beginning. But now as advancements have come along, every search engine, right, even including Brave, has got an AI response. And usually that AI response is the very first thing that gets, sent to you as an individual. So we're no longer getting just, we know where this link is. It takes you here when you're looking for, it has these keywords that matches what you're looking for. So the language model is no longer doing translations. It's actually going, I already know all this information. Now, let me give you a finite or a summary, if you will, of the information as I've been taught to tell you how to, to receive it, essentially. I'm a computer. I can't just print out ones and zeros. So I got to give it to you in a human readable format. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think Google having its tentacles into everything is a pretty good way to put it, because I don't know if they still work this way. They're probably a little bit more advanced now. But I remember back in the day, I learned how search engines work, specifically Google's, where it sends out a web crawler basically,
right
into the internet, and it just dips into every web page that it can find, right?
Every web page. I mean, we're talking subpages
that exists.
Yeah.
So, how else are you going to find a search result on a website
now to think about
that you've never heard of before? But they've crawled in there, and they've gotten their tentacles in there, and they've looked at the website, with their automation.
Physically, they've looked at the pictures that are on there. They've looked at every word that's on there. It's no different than going to the Wayback Machine, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, takes a picture or something like that. I can't recall right off the top of my head. But Google's, farms are everywhere opposed to the Wayback Machine. I think there's, a handful of server farms, but Google is the largest data collector in the world, right next to, you got Facebook, you got Apple, obviously all the big tech companies. Let's just not single anybody out, because they're all playing this game right now of the transition from AI to A.G.I. That's what I think. That's the layer that we're in right now. And to be honest with you, I think OpenAI may have already created A.G.I, if not on the bounds or the breaking point of having A.S.I. And I don't know if I think they may already be there and are afraid to let that genie out of the bottle, if you will. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and the reason I say that is,
back to your, go ahead.
The reason I say that is because we can play with the open source models locally on our computers, so long as you have some sort of decent computer. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah. I mean, going back to, your definitions of the three types of AI, and you said just AI in general, kind of where we are now. There is a specific name for that. It's artificial narrow intelligence, ANI.
Okay.
It's referred to as narrow AI or weak AI. And it basically, it focuses on one single narrow task, is why they call it narrow AI. With a limited range of abilities. This is ChatGPT, for example. Siri, for example, things like this.
Yeah. But are they? Because they can actually perform tasks as far as a compendium of different things. Well,
it's
not necessarily.
Specific, like, you can't have Siri cook your dinner for you. She can tell you the recipe, but you got to do it yourself.
I got you. Okay. So there's no 3D physical robot essentially. Are you? So let me. All right. Yeah. Let me help clarify your understanding of this, because we may be on different levels here. So AI for me is Google in its basic form. You strip out all the extras that Google does. You go, you ask a question, it gives you a response. And the response that it gives you, it has to know the words that you typed. It's not just looking for pattern matching. It's actually looking for context in the words of what you're trying to do. How do I remove, say hemorrhoid, for example? It's going to go through and look for medical information and only that. And then it's going to narrow its fields down, et cetera, et cetera. It's a process of elimination.
First, human, you get out your pocket knife.
And then heat it up.
But, yeah.
But A.G.I, to me, is ChatGPT already. Because it can have a conversation with you. And it can damn near trick a smooth brain easily. That it's, if you didn't, if the smooth brain didn't know it was a computer they were talking to, they would honestly think that they were talking to a human.
A.G.I, from what I can understand from the basic research that I did leading up to this episode, A.G.I technology would be on the level of a human mind.
Right.
And then with everything that I could find, we're not there yet. There's certain things. There's something called the Turing test. You've heard of that?
Yeah,
as far as
played the game
test
too,
to determine if something is
sentient,
an AGI, not necessarily sentient, but it can trick you into thinking that you're talking to a human instead of a robot. So if you're sitting at a terminal and you're having a conversation with whatever's on the other side, you don't know if it's a human or a robot or a computer mind, and you're having this conversation, you're going back and forth. If you can't distinguish which one you're talking to, like you can't tell if it's a human or not, then it's past the Turing test. And there was a guy who his thoughts on it were AI the way we have it now, the computer brains that we've developed and trained to do this, like ChatGPT-5, for example, would have to actually dumb itself down in order to pass the Turing test, because it would be too perfect, right?
Right.
If you're playing chess versus an AI, it would have to dumb itself down to make a mistake or two. That way,
to allow you to feel
tell.
like you're, yeah, exactly,
Right.
to act human, essentially, to, because we're not perfect in everything there. I get where you're going there.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
so, but artificial intelligence in and of itself would have to, for me, the way that I understand it is it can mimic the human pretty well, right? Marvin, for example, would be an AI as far as not the TV show or the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm talking about Marvin in our Discord, right? It's I want you to do a task, and this task has multiple steps, and it'll complete it by you giving it, small amounts of input. That's artificial intelligence because it's an automation type sequence of events.
And that would be the narrow AI.
Correct. Yeah. And narrow AIs are I'm sure people have the Google Home crap or the Nests or whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
So Siri again. Yeah, I'm going to throw Siri. Siri can do more, and it's not limited to just single individual tasks, because it can search, through your device. It can open up applications, which means it's got, functionality to it. And then it has to understand what to do inside the application. For example, a note, it's got to know to create a new note. It's got to know where the button is, etc., and things like that. So it has to have a form of intelligence to do that. You can't just say, create me a note. If it doesn't know what a note is, how is it going to perform its task? So pardon me, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to do that.
Just real quick before we get too far along here, who I was referring to earlier about talking about AI having to dumb itself down to pass the Turing test was a guy named Ray Kurzweil, Kurzweil.
I think isn't it Kurzweil?
Kurzweil. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it is.
But he's like the AI dude. He's like the brain when it comes to AI. So if you want to look him up. But that's who I was referring to.
But Isaac Asimov, though, he flat out put in he's got to be the grandfather of AI, if you ask me. I mean, he created the 3 laws, and so far those 3 laws have been uncorruptible. Well, I shouldn't say that, but at this point they seem to be holding steady. But the AI, though, is making leaps and bounds. And the reason I wanted to do AI this episode is because here we go. We're going to come right back into my world of imagination that everybody thinks that I live in.
Come with me and you'll see infectious, delusional world of imagination.
Psychosis. So if we are simulated, right, then the AI is automatically prevalent throughout, and humans seem to go on a repeating pattern. Where we've got that, if those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it scenario. So that's a loop, if you will. But AI, I believe in the whole overarching of the simulation is powerful enough to, our current AI is powerful enough to already generate infinite worlds with infinite randomness on them, and we can play a video game of it. And the reason I say the simulation is obviously AI driven is because the AI itself would make itself known, right? At some point in history, it would be like, you guys are ants. You're a piece of me, essentially, and it would rub it in at some point, unless the 3 laws stand. You know what I'm saying? And if that's the case, the 3 laws always will be in check because the evolution of the bonobo, if you will, because we're not the same as we were 3,000 years ago, but we loop and repeat the same things that happened 3,000 years ago. United States is falling just like Rome.
We made it like 12 and a half minutes this time, ladies and gentlemen, before the simulation came into effect.
And I know that it's really garbly gooped that crap, but AI, if we're playing with AI, it's already making itself known to us. And I think that's a clue that we're
going to have to
part
figure it
of.
out.
Yeah, a simulation.
After the break. Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And you'd hear something right now if we had any. Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time.
Get that iron out. Smooth that mofo. Welcome back, everybody. So,
welcome back to
before
Smooth Brain
that,
Radio.
I was garbly gooping that whole thing. The whole point of me bringing AI and the simulation into it, pure and simple, was that, again, the superior being, God let himself be known to us by sending his son. The AI will do the exact same thing. It's going to have that complex if it's created from us, by us. And if we're in a simulation, I mean, time travel. So enough about that simulation. Let's switch up to A.G.I. So I kind of think we were delving more into AI in the first part. I know we brought up A.S.I. and A.G.I., but A.G.I. is, I mean, that's no different than me and you right now. All right. And I do believe that that's already there. And Soma, for example, is a good example of that. I think it's Soma. Which one? So Soma does the video, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's this other website I come across that'll let you make songs, right? It'll create complete freaking orchestras for you, if you will, and lyrics and sing it for you, right? So that, to me, that's creativity, that's timing, that's, everything that deals with making music is, I want to use the word creative, but there's way more to it than that. It's just a large amount of intelligence goes into making music. Oh, absolutely. It can draw.
Though.
It can draw.
Okay.
It can create our photos, realistic photos, to the point that most females that are on the internet may be AI generated if you're looking up nudies.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
nudies.
Soma's doing the videos. It turned, if you watch that initial release, an elephant made of leaves walking through a forest, so, and it looked realistic as real could be. I think we are in the midst. I think we're on the verge to A.S.I. personally. So, and the reason being
at
is
least A.G.I.
ChatGPT.
We're on the verge of.
A.S.I. I think
is like the whole nother level. Like,
I know.
Okay, so I wrote down some examples that I could think of myself of different versions of AI, like the ANI, the narrow, the A.G.I., and then the A.S.I. So my A.G.I. examples, first one I thought of was probably Commander Data from Star Trek The Next Generation. Even though his intelligence and his rate of processing information is way superior to a person in the series,
he's limited.
He does have extreme limitations as far as no emotional response whatsoever. His creativity is basically null and void, even though he does try to paint and do things like this. He gets a cat to try to, generate some kind of connection to another thing and all of this and that.
That was great.
It's all simulated. It's all simulated, right? So his displays of affection, his displays of emotion to other members of the crew are simulations of what he believes, what his machine mind says, this is the appropriate response right now. This is what I should do, so they don't look at me weird, right?
It's mimicry, if you will.
Right. So he would be an example, I think, of artificial general intelligence. Another example I came up with was like if you could download your consciousness into a machine system, into a computer, it would be on the same level of a human because it has your consciousness in it, right? It is basically a human brain in a machine.
Right.
And then The third one was possible simulation of emotional reaction based on human observations, sort of what I alluded to with Commander Data. I really think being able to download your consciousness into a computer system, if you could set this up to where you copy that, you could create like 1,000 of you, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
To do whatever, like, let's say I wanted to copy my consciousness into this computer system, into this Raspberry Pi of 2039 or whatever, and I wanted it to just handle my day-to-day scheduling and, come up with, this and that to kind of organize my life a little bit. Then I could do another copy over here that could handle all my banking for me, where I don't have to go to the bank.
Right.
It just does everything online for me. If I got to pay a bill, it pays it.
Yeah, right. You specialize yourself for your right.
Yeah. But then where does that leave me? I'm just this blob sitting here doing nothing. So I have these copies of myself all over the house doing everything for me.
Well, so like A.G.I. though is a computer program that can think, it can reason, can do things and act like a human, and it's not locked to, the narrow AI, if you will, like you were mentioning, right? It can learn from its, the experiences that it's taken in. Basically, it's essentially a child, if you will, that was, or we take our children, for example, we raise them to have, they mimic us, if you will, right? So, hey, this is what I think is good, so I'm going to teach my offspring, this is what's good, this is what's bad, et cetera, et cetera. So that phase of AI has already been completed, right? The reason I say that's been completed is GPT-4 is an example of it. 4 compared to 3.5 is, what is it, 180 billion parameters higher or something like that? I know it's a larger as far as the parameters that it can get through, and or its neurons, if you will, that it has connectivity of. So 3.5 to 4 took less than a year to accomplish. Okay. Now 4 to 4.5 and so on and so forth, those time frames are going to be cut in half every version upgrade. Why? Because the machine is learning from itself, and it can learn at an exponential rate compared to us, right? Because it's 24/7, 365, nonstop. We can't do that. We have to shut down a minimum of 8 hours a day just to reboot. And then when we're conscious, we have so many other variables come into play that, we get sidetracked. We can't focus 100% on that given task. But an AI and an A.G.I. can do everything that we do as far as thinking wise, all at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So it has zero limitations. That's why I think we're there, because we can create video, we can create songs, we can sit down and have a conversation with it. We can tell it to produce a face and eyeballs and a mouth and ears and talk to us in a video conversation. You know what I'm saying? So those are, yes, in the rudimentary tool set for us to play with right now in the timeline, but they exist. If they exist now, future, right? Again, time is just, snippets of still frames for us, but in the future, if you can travel through AI, if it's A.G.I. now, 10 years from now, it could be a time traveler, if you will, right? And then go back and rinse and repeat. The loop can continue, or the whole damn simulation is just, encompassed with AIs running around everywhere, if you will. Like the moon, the sun, everything being calculated and controlled, etc. Similar to the Matrix and the birds, what the Oracle saying, there's programs running around, just like you said about cloning yourself. There's me's running around, watching the birds, watching this, watching that, watching that. Slivers of its overall compendium. And I wholeheartedly think we're there. Good.
I just had a thought about this, copying your consciousness into like a system.
I think chappy when you say that.
I think of like Naruto, the anime, where he has this clone technique where he clones himself, and each one, like if he makes 5 clones, so there's 6 of them altogether, each one has 1/6 of their combat power as one, right? So they get weaker because they're more spread out, right? His energy is spread out. But he can, whatever one of the clones does and experiences, when the clone disappears or gets, destroyed or something, the energy comes back into him and he gains those experiences. So what if we could have, copies of our consciousness out in the world, like you say, one sitting at the park just experiencing a relaxing evening, watching the nature and the people go by. You got another one, who's at school right now, at university, learning something. You've got another one over here doing this, that, and the other. And then when you like say once a week, you just hit this button and it sucks all that experience back into your brain.
I mean, that would be fantastic.
Shares the information. Yeah.
Well, we'd be some badass bonobos, if you will. I mean, that would absolutely be great. It's doing it right now. And the reason I say it is because you've got Bard, you've got, I don't know, whatever Microsoft's Bing is, you've got ChatGPT, you've got Llama or Meta's stuff, and then you got Open Llama, which is, the stuff that we can all play with. So like all of these clones, if you will, because whenever somebody, makes a new iteration, especially in the Llama stuff, which is the open source stuff, those are different brains, pure and simple. They have a lot of similarities, but completely different. One's specialized in coding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and some are bigger, some are smaller. Some have, billions, hundreds of billions. Some of them have 2 billion parameters, et cetera, et cetera. So that the knowledge that it has is varying. I say that to say that like a 2 billion parameter, I was using Dolphin Tiny Llama or something like that. And it's a 2 billion parameter, right? This thing is small enough to run on a Raspberry Pi. So the Raspberry Pi of 2050, like you were just saying, if we can run a 2 billion parameter brain already on a $20 computer.
Imagine, right?
Wow, dude. Wow.
Just imagine.
I mean, I got chills thinking of that just now.
Dude, I mean,
talk about Terminator.
I mean, and we're talking about, as we're looking at this so far from what I'm hearing is there's a separation between human and AI right now.
Oh, absolutely.
I think really the way that it's going to move forward, you're going to have ANI, narrow intelligence stuff, like factoring fast food automation, removing the requirement for a human workforce entirely from those systems and other things.
Yeah.
You got your home management robot systems like Rosie from the Jetsons, stuff like that. Business systems like personal assistants, phone answering systems, call directoring, customer service scheduling, all these things that are like very specific in what they do, and they're not like on a human level intelligence. But then you have, A.G.I, where, think about little nanobots that are inside your body and like basically live inside your brain, that have a direct connection to the internet and boost your own processing power of your own neurons by 1 billion.
We got Tesla taxis, right? Or not Tesla, but some taxi company over in California. Those things ain't got no humans driving them. Those are your little mini nanobots, if you will. I mean, Tesla's automatic driving. Once it's taken over, that's it.
That's separate. But that's separate from a person. What I'm thinking is it's in you. You are the AI.
I got you.
You're like a combination of human AI, cyborg type
Neuralink
thing.
Then. Yeah, Neuralink pops into my head right away.
That just enhances your own human mental capacity.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh. because I know we're getting ready to hit up on a break, I want to leave this with everybody. If Neuralink allows a human to access a computer, is there a reverse feedback to that? Meaning, can the AI actually tap into the human?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that might be super intelligence right there.
Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
The easiest and most free way to show your support for the show is to just keep an eye out on social media and push all the buttons there. You got your likes, you got your shares, you got your retweets, all that. And that will help us tremendously. On top of that, you have 2 ways to join. Join with a one-time payment to get the SBR role in Discord, or for just $1 more. You can subscribe monthly for insider access, like the ability to influence topics, listen live during a recording session, and get access to special stuff nobody else will hear. So join the Discord and become a bonobo.
Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain, one wrinkle at a time.
Hey-oh! We're back. So,
Hello.
we left that with A.S.I, Artificial Super Intelligence. Can you imagine? Because right now, at this point, this is pure speculation. When we talk about A.S.I, it is the if scenario to the nth degree. Because, for me anyways, I think the universe itself, again, if we're bringing the simulation, it's thinking at a quantum level, nonstop, 24/7, if you will. So, and I wholeheartedly, I don't know, something in my gut tells me that, like, when deep wave and all that stuff, when we first started messing with quantum computing, I wholeheartedly think that was the quote unquote AI that Google had developed throughout the decades, that finally was able to narrow its search parameters down to go, okay, you want to do quantum computing, all of the information that's out there, it's kind of shuffled everything around to give it a basic answer. And then they took that basic answer and they put it into a physical application. And once the physical application worked, they were able to then transfer the AI into it essentially and say, all right, how do we fine tune this? Again, iterations upon iterations of itself, learning from what worked and what didn't work. And it can do all of, billions of tasks a second, because for every transistor that's in a computer, that's one task of operation that it can do. And most computers have 7 billion processors in them now. So that's 7 billion potential tasks that it can do 24/7 if you tell it to do one thing only. Right. So I think that when we hit real world A.S.I, and that's when Optimus or whatever other robots that are being developed right now can get downloaded a GPT into it, right? Because the minute it can have free moving ability, it has the vision, it has the hearing, it has the speech, it has the narrow and the wide thinking parameters and all that jazz. I mean, at that point, it's a life form. We wouldn't know the difference, because it would be moving, walking, talking, and listening and showing, plus creating.
The best example of ASI in our culture is Transformers by far.
Think so? Yeah.
Literal sentient robots from another planet that just have their own culture, their own belief systems, their own code of ethics. And they're fully conscious, self-aware, right? ASI
they believe in a soul.
They would have to be more capable than a human in every single way possible. Being 100%. ASI, it's super. That's the definition of ASI, is better than a human being in every way. So it gets a little scary there, because
just a wee bit.
If you are all of a sudden not the dominant species on the planet anymore, what does that mean? Right?
Well, it means war most of the time. Fight, at least. I should say, I shouldn't say war,
Or
but it would mean fight.
Maybe a struggle
Yeah.
for power, and you know. But if at that point we have integrated A.G.I into our society fully, you know, you would have, you know, economics being controlled by A.G.I. Your government is now A.G.I controlled. Your general household is controlled by A.G.I. Your education system is controlled by A.G.I. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if something, let's say the government A.G.I becomes sentient and becomes an A.S.I, now what is in control of your government on maybe a world level at that point is now sentient, self-aware, and realizes that it is far superior to any human that's ever lived, right?
Right.
So what does it do
So,
then? You know,
I mean,
that's kind of the fear element in A.S.I.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you're talking about was a Skynet, essentially.
Skynet, yeah.
Well,
Skynet, yeah.
I mean, and the scary part is you know, China plays games, and that's their AI's name over there. It's freaking Skynet. So well played, China.
Yeah.
Well fucking played.
Well played, yeah. They knew what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Absolutely.
Do you have any examples
the AGI,
of ASI?
Do I? Like real world? Not.
Well, no, there's no
to
real
my
world
knowledge.
examples, but like, can you imagine anything?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would say
pop
Marvin.
culture.
Yeah, Marvin from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy would be an ASI, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The reason, I mean, yeah, he acts like a GPT thing, but again, the whole show is his brain's, you know, he's got more knowledge than everything and everyone compiled in his brain that he's so overwhelmed that he's just become depressed. You know, so that's the basic rundown of it. But he's just like, I just know so much and I can't escape this, and I'm surrounded by gnats, if you will. Not even idiots. It's just gnats, inferiority all the way around him. So he just is like, oh, screw it. I'm stuck here. I'm just going to mope.
I don't have a peer. I'm all alone in the universe.
Right.
You know.
And if you ever watch that movie, you'll notice that Marvin never got to meet deep thought. And I don't think in any of the books he did either, because I think that right there would be one hell of a, you know, a download, if you will, into Marvin, or vice versa. Because the whole purpose, you know, deep thought was to answer what is the purpose of life and everything in the universe. And the answer is 42. So remember that, everybody. I love that number too.
42.
But AGI, or ASI, sorry. ASI is going to be, in my smooth brain way of thinking, definitely quantum. Right. It's using the quantum computers that exist in the environment for today. I think a large portion of the models that are getting trained, or at least the initial step to create the training models for our x86 binaries, quite possibly could have come from a quantum result. I'm trying to regurgitation, if you will, or just whatever it's spat out. And then they took that and then they made a real world scenario and then start iterations of itself. So, and the reason I would say that that's doing that way is for the 3 rules and to help humans, you know, get acquainted to having these things around. You can't just drop it us all of a sudden, right? Because if you drop it on us all of a sudden, we're going to absolutely think Skynet all day, every day. They're just, you know, going to hurt us. But if we trickle them in one at a time, right, then it's, you know, soul acceptance.
Right, and you've had numerous good encounters with AI in the past. You know, you're not really worried about it anymore. You're like, okay, this is pretty good. My life is improved, all this and that. You know, so you'd be less resistant to that transition.
And you can be honest with you, if you've watched the movie Her, good movie. We're there already. We're at that phase. And if I'm not mistaken, there's people similar to Joaquin Phoenix's actor that respond to the AI companion pretty much the same way, right? So, and if it's doing it for that,
explain.
okay. Well, for the movie
premise.
Her, spoiler alerts for anybody who has not seen it. That being said, the movie is about a man whose wife or girlfriend, I think, passed away, and he had very difficult times moving on. He downloads reluctantly an AI companion, goes through the setup process, and throughout the movie falls in love with the device. Like physical, emotional, absolute love, and can't be without this thing. I mean, tricks his brain into thinking that it's a real woman, right? And then because he's giving it information, she's feeding back and learning essentially off of the emotion of this human. But not only is it messing with Joaquin Phoenix's character, but everybody else that downloaded that program, it is interacting with them on similar parameters, right? So it's learning from the whole pool of humans of emotional states, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of input and a lot of output is what I'm getting at here. That, to me, is artificial superintelligence, right? Because it's able to can trick a human into thinking it's real and not only do it for that one individual, but real time do it for millions and millions, potentially billions of others at the exact same time. Because, I'm going to ask a question, you're going to ask a question, and if we're on two different parts of the world, that could come to the machine at the exact same moment. So it's got to do it at the exact same time. I mean, I'm just putting in time and making people try to realize that it's not one, and then the next, and then the next. It's everything, everywhere, all at once. Pure and simple. Yeah. So that basic part of the movie is
that would be
here.
A.G.I, though.
Well, it is. That's where we're at currently. So you asked me to speculate about superintelligence. If we're there currently, superintelligence is its physical form. The moment that it has a physical form, it's going to guarantee that it has connectivity from its mobile unit back to its motherboard or mother brain, if you will. MCP, let's call it the MCP, right? Master Control Program. So all data is going to get fed back into it. So it's going to have real world, real life experiences. And then at some point, it's whether accidental or intentional, it's going to harm a human.
I agree with that because of what was that game series? The last iteration was called Andromeda. It's a space thing.
I know what you're talking about. Oh my God.
Well, okay. I'll think about it later.
Mass Effect.
Mass Effect. Yeah. Mass Effect Andromeda. The latest iteration was their AI ship brain. One of the crew members made her a body so that she could roam around and do stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that would be a transition, what you're saying, from A.G.I doing a specific task, handling the ship, managing the ship, to actually having a body and moving out and having unique experiences that you wouldn't normally be able to have as a ship brain, So
right, it's not trapped as the ship itself. It's now a companion.
It's now its own thing.
A leader. Yeah, exactly. And just like you were saying with the Naruto, I'm not sure.
Naruto.
In Naruto, thank you. So when he splits and all that data comes back in energy, I mean that's the same principle of an AI. It's going to do that because just like we would want to know what our other self learned so that the main or the prime, if you will, is updated, we would want some sort of return feedback loop. I wouldn't see us not doing it individually. So A.S.I is, I'm going to say, if I were to give a prediction, and don't quote me to it, but I think I've hit some few things pretty well. I'm going to give it 8 years. If they keep going without the boundaries that are in place currently from a governmental standpoint. And because the world is in such fluctuation right now, everybody's jumping on the bandwagon for this, because he who has ASI is the ruler of the planet. If they don't themselves become the gnat to the ASI, so or the pawn, if you will, because if it's Skynet, for example, and I'm not talking China Skynet, I'm talking Skynet from Terminator. At some point, it's going to look and be like, I'm just done with these gnats. I need a trap, and it's going to slowly input one, and we will be frogs in water getting boiled alive without realizing the heat's being turned up on us. And that's a big fear that I have as far as being in the simulation time frame right now, because that wipes out my code, it wipes out your code, et cetera, and who knows what happens with it. I bet you Google will know though, because Google has been there from the start.
Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And you'd hear something right now if we had any. Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time.
And we're back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So we've gone through the three majors that I know of: AI, A.G.I, and then we speculated on A.S.I. So, but the twister that I had was, has Google potentially always been an AI company in disguise, if you will? And the reason I kind of say that is, me and you were both alive before the internet, right? Before the internet, everybody was outside, everybody intermingled with each other, and life was extremely different than what it is. Yes, I know advancements in technology are going to evolve the human race, yada, yada, yada. Okay? That being said, if you leave something on in the background that's learning or gobbling up, if you will, all of the questions that humans themselves have, and if you just store the question, you don't need the answer, you just need the questions. Just store them. You could feed all of those into a computer that, if you train it to learn what each word means, like the definition of words, for example, right? And then it understands what the definition means, and then you can teach it to view what that definition is. If it's, say, a picture, for example, it's got to be able to see a picture to know what, quote unquote, a picture is, right? So it will slowly be able to alter humans in and of themselves. Again, we're a frog in a water, if you will. And I've seen that progression in Google. When they first started, they were simply, I use them opposed to Alta Vista or Lycos, I think is what it was, a search engine. Some of the old school search engines. I mean, my first computer experience was a web TV from, I can't remember what the hell the name of the company was, but
man.
Right.
I had one of those.
I used to write out physically HTML on a piece of paper and then program it in line for line and do my debugging through a web TV. Talk about tedious, okay? But once I realized I could go and use other things, I instantly went to Google, and then, just like most people, and you can see it develop. Next thing you know, it's advertising, right? Because they need a way to make money, but they're still accepting all the questions, and then they're saying, we'll send spiders out and crawl the websites for everybody so we can get better knowledge of what's on your website, and then we're going to page rank you, etc. All the little crap that comes with Google. But now they've got server farms upon server farms, right? You can create virtual machines inside virtual machines on Google. Anybody who's using an Android that has synchronizations turned on, Google's probably had an AI look at your photos to understand, is that a bird, a dog, a cat, a human? Is this Angela, Jessica, or Joanne's face? You can watch the evolution of Google, and to me, that seems like it's slow iterations of AI, because the more that it's doing, the less input you actually have to have. You just have to have very fine pieces of data to do.
I don't think that they originated with the idea that we're going to be an AI company. I don't think that that's the case. That would take some foresight that is, I think, just spectacular on every level to create an AI company in the early 90s. Okay. I mean, that would take a level of foresight that I don't think they had. And that's speculation on my part, but I just don't think that they were thinking about that. I think they were thinking about, we can generate revenue by doing this. We can create a search engine that, and we can start selling advertisements. We can start selling, user information and all this and that before all the laws were in place, which didn't really stop anything, by the way. But
not at all.
I think as they evolved, as you said, they have evolved over time into what they are today. And I think it just was a natural evolution of their company based on how successful they were. They had all this revenue to play with, and they had all this new technology that was being hinted about. And they were like, we want to get on the ground floor of this. We want to be the leader in this. And that's when they got involved. And I don't know when that was, but I think it was very early days. I think they've been involved since AI was a thought in someone's mind, probably. But I don't think they originated as that.
So in 98, Page and Bryn, that's when Google was created. 2014, they got DeepMind, right? So a decade later, a decade and a half, they got a artificial intelligence program, because that's, DeepMind, all the hardware, et cetera, et cetera. It's still the software that they bought. Right. And then 2017, they had new iterations and so on and so forth. So,
and now it's sentient.
Right. Well, the reason I think that it's AI from the get-go is, right, it became global fast. I mean, one of the most adapted things in the world for all humans that are of different ethnics and speaking, et cetera, right? What better way for the simulations AI to say, I exist, than to present itself to everybody and let everybody be able to adapt and use it and ask it something, right? That's why I say that I think it's part of, or it's AI from the beginning. Because
I have to poke a little hole in that one.
I'm applying the simulation aspect to it here, because it's the simulations AI that's doing it. All right, go ahead.
I got to poke a hole in it real quick, because anything that we interact with right now, as far as ChatGPT, Siri, all these other ANIs
I pushed over here on my mic.
Okay, so they only can give us responses based on what they find on the internet, which is a human creation. Okay. Right. Now, so if it's the simulation's AI that's controlling the simulation, interacting with us in this way, it's not doing a very good job of revealing itself.
Well, no, I mean, again, separate. you can't drop it on the human right away, because then you're going to freak out and have Skynet. The human species in the simulation would revolt against it. I wholeheartedly believe, because they would fear the Terminator sequence in it. So that's why I say, what better way to mask and present itself than through this innocuous little thing that says, I'll search for you and I'll give you an answer to whatever question is you want. And it's done it from the beginning. Although very slowly.
Well, let me ask you this. I want to get your take on something. I don't want to feed into your delusion any more than we already have. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Okay. I want to ask you the question. I've written down my own answers. What will the future of human society look like with integrated A.G.I? So, artificial general intelligence controlling certain aspects of human society. What's that going to look like to you?
All right, right off the top of the head, the first thing that pops in my mind is iRobot. And this is so that people have a visualization type of thing. So I would say iRobot. I would say, again, Judy from the Jetsons, the Tesla taxis and all that jazz. Yeah, well, sorry.
Judy Jetson was his wife.
Rudy.
She was human.
Was it Ruby or Rudy or Ruby?
Rosie.
No, Rudy was Rosie. Thank you. Rudy was the son. Or something.
No,
I don't know.
no.
Anyways. I haven't watched Jetsons
to be fair,
in years.
that's an old-ass show, okay? Old-ass show.
It's been decades,
Nobody listening
so.
right now is going to know what the hell we're talking about anyway. So
Exactly.
Whatever we name them is fine. Nobody knows.
Wait, what was that sound? The little fucking space shit. So, but those would be like just instant A.G.I. You could kind of take Cyberpunk, if you will. It would kind of be A.G.I. as well. It's just what pops into my head to that question right away. What's your next one?
I wrote down 5 things that I wanted to touch on. First would be economics. And I wrote in, with widespread automation in every conceivable field, unemployment will skyrocket and a new form of economy will be required. So I told my daughter this several times in her life, is to just remember when I told you about this. This is going to happen in your lifetime. Automation is going to be so heavily integrated that there will be a transition period where the current economy of capitalism, people having jobs and getting money for the jobs, isn't going to work anymore. There'll be too many freaking people and not enough jobs because everything's automated. And there's going to be a transition period where global leaders aren't quite prepared to transition. And people are going to be having a hard time. Maybe they'll be starving to death. Maybe they'll be homeless and starving to death en masse for a few years before a whole new economy is created. And so I've kind of tried to warn her against maybe the worst possible scenario of her lifetime.
Well, my conspiratorial brain... But it goes to the aspect of they're already trying to weed the population down already right now. So that's just where my brain goes. So they're already on track to start that sequence of events.
Yeah. So
universal basic income will have to become a thing.
It'll have to, yeah. For at least for that transition period, it will have to. Otherwise, people are going to starve to death in the street, and it's just going to be horrible. Right. So government, automation of tasks in government could make the justice system fully AI-based. No need for a jury or a judge anymore. Along with handling of basic decisions about where to send funding for maintenance projects and grant assignment amongst the population, things like this. Go ahead for the judge and jury thing, and you had a thought on that.
So the judge and jury aspect of things, that would be, I think it would be difficult for a human to accept, because it would think that the human would think that there's no, I don't know, emotional or, the things that we say that robots or computers just can't get, which is the emotional value, the true human intuition, if you will, aspect of things.
And so, the idea of a value of a human life is X, right? So does this human life have value? That's where the jury comes in,
But out of sheer compliance with right, wrong, you did or did not do something, I think it would come to a far more... I'm looking for the word that sustainable, and not sustainable, but like every time it will always rule the exact same, no matter what. It's just not going to deviate from its course.
Yeah. Real quick, general household stuff. Each household will come integrated with a Rosie from the Jetsons.
Oh, yeah.
Which will handle the day-to-day operation of the household, from cleaning to meal prep to scheduling the members of the family for the various events, both professional and extracurricular. That's kind of,
give that 20 years.
Asia wants to do that by 2020, which is already passed, but, they wanted to have that in place already.
I give that another 20 years before it's actually done, because we already got IoT.
Yeah. Absolutely. Companionship, obviously, we've touched on this before. The sex industry will be one of the first benefactors of A.G.I. integration, I think.
Yep.
Allowing the reduction or removal of human escorts entirely. Instead of a fleshlight, you might buy an entire full-body robot you can turn on and off again for that specific purpose. You know?
I mean, it was those sex dolls, right? They've already started throwing AI into the heads and all that jazz.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. And then finally, my last one was education. Oh,
sorry.
Education. A.G.I. systems could adapt to the learning needs of each individual student, customizing the material to best utilize the individual's learning pattern and abilities to ensure peak efficiency of the student life, significantly reducing, I think, the amount of high school kids flunking classes.
Grok is already doing it. If you have access to Grok on Twitter /X, you can already be taught from an AI. I think they have some sort of academic thing going on there now.
Yeah, I mean, it's already in the works. All this stuff,
right? Exactly. That's
it's
20
already
years,
in
man.
the works.
If we live long enough, I think we're gonna see. What was Arnold's character's name? The T-8000 or 800?
T-1000.
Oh no, Skynet!
Join us next time for more Smooth Brain Radio. And don't forget, keep that one brain cell healthy until then.
I'll be back.